if you told most Americans that by experimenting on a small group of islanders in a remote country in ways that would cause them some harm, we could cure cancer, they would say, yeah, go for it.
Selfishness is at the core of Singer's ethical thinking. He often lectures about this subject around the world, like here at Oxford University in England. He questions what is the responsibility of people living in luxury to help people mired in poverty. He outlines his view in his latest book called Writings on an Ethical Life, and he's come up with a provocative ethical scenario to illustrate it. He asks you to imagine that you have just invested most of your retirement money, as well as much of your pride, on an expensive automobile like this one.
You park your car on a railroad crossing to step out for a breath of fresh air. From out of the blue, a runaway train comes roaring towards your car. Now, you can pull a switch, this one right here, to change the train track. But there's a refugee child from Bangladesh on that other track. So you have a choice. Save your precious car or save the child.
Peter Singer thinks most people would want to save the child, but by the way people live their everyday lives, they are choosing, in fact, to save their car.
We are so prepared to spend money on luxuries rather than give substantial amounts to alleviating the kind of poverty that leads to the preventable death of so many people elsewhere in the world.
Singer used the example of the car and child in an article he wrote for the New York Times. It struck a chord with readers. Two charities mentioned in the piece, UNICEF and Oxfam, received donations of about $750,000 in response. Singer himself says he gives 20% of his income to charity. But ideally, he says, everyone should only keep money for basic necessities. The rest should be given away.
Tell me, in your opinion, what's ethically wrong with my saying, listen, I work hard for my money. I think I'm entitled not just to survive, but to enjoy. And if I want to spend $500 on a restaurant meal, well, okay.
I think what's ethically wrong with that attitude is that most of the world's population, no matter how hard they worked for their entire life, would never even be able to get to the point of spending $50 on a restaurant meal. And I think that ought to come above your, let me say, somewhat frivolous desire to go to a restaurant that requires you to spend $500.
You live in at least a reasonably nice apartment, and you don't skip your trips back home to Australia.
True.
Is that, or is it not prima facie evidence that you don't exactly practice what you preach?
It's prima facie evidence, and I accept it. I don't live up fully to my ideals. I acknowledge that I should go further, but I wish that there were more people following me as far as I've gone, and then maybe it would be a little easier to keep going down that track.
Easier, perhaps, but no less challenging, for Singer or for the rest of us. Medical miracles are bringing new ethical choices, along with new cures. Heartbreaking decisions, along with life-saving treatments. The rules, it seems, are changing, but Peter Singer says he is guided by one of the oldest rules of all.
My ethics come from considering the consequences of my actions for all of those who get affected by them. I'm prepared to say that, in a sense, my ethics is a kind of golden rule. The idea of saying, how would you like it if this were done to you, is fundamental to my sense of ethics, because I think that's what ethics is about. It's about getting beyond yourself and looking at the effect that you're having on others.